The Appalachian Trail stretches 2,190 miles from Georgia to Maine, and thousands of hikers attempt to thru-hike it every year. Most follow the same basic rules: start early, hike during daylight, make camp before dark. These aren't just safety guidelines, they're survival rules, because the trail changes at night. Not everywhere, not all the time, but in certain sections, in certain conditions, when the clock strikes midnight, new paths appear, trails that lead away from the mapped route, marked with blazes that glow in the darkness, promising shortcuts or scenic views or easier terrain. And if you're foolish enough to follow those midnight trails, you'll find yourself in a place that exists outside normal time, outside normal geography, a place called Nowhere Valley, where it's always midnight, where dawn never comes, and where hikers have been walking for decades trying to find their way out. This is the story of Lauren Hayes, who broke the cardinal rule and hiked after dark. She found the midnight trail, and she's been trying to leave ever since. Welcome to Nowhere Valley. The exit is just ahead. It's always just ahead. Lauren Hayes was 700 miles into her Appalachian Trail thru-hike when she made the mistake that would change her life forever. She'd started at Springer Mountain in Georgia in early April, and by mid-October she was in the Virginia section, making good time toward her goal of reaching Mount Katahdin in Maine before the weather turned. Lauren was an experienced backpacker. This was her second thru-hike attempt, and she knew the trail's rhythms, its challenges, its unwritten rules. One of those unwritten rules was simple: don't hike at night. The trail was difficult enough in daylight, with its roots and rocks and steep ascents. At night, a twisted ankle or a wrong step could turn into a serious emergency. Plus, there was something about the trail after dark that made even experienced hikers uneasy. The forest changed at night, became something other. But on October 17th, a sudden thunderstorm forced Lauren to make a difficult choice. She'd been planning to camp at a shelter 4 miles ahead, but the storm hit mid-afternoon with torrential rain and lightning that made staying put dangerous. The trees around her were tall and exposed, not a safe place to wait out an electrical storm. So Lauren kept walking, figuring she'd reach the shelter before dark if she pushed hard. The rain was miserable, soaking through her rain gear, turning the trail into a muddy stream. But she'd hiked in worse. She'd make it. Except she'd miscalculated the distance. By the time the storm passed, leaving the forest dripping and dark, Lauren was still 2 miles from the shelter. The sun had set, and her headlamp's battery was dying. She'd forgotten to swap in fresh batteries that morning. Lauren checked her watch, 9:23 p.m. She had 2 choices: make camp here in the wet forest with minimal shelter, or push on for 2 more miles in the dark with a failing headlamp. The shelter would have a roof, probably a fire pit with dry wood. 2 miles wasn't that far. She decided to keep walking. The trail was harder at night than Lauren had anticipated. Even with her failing headlamp, the shadows seemed darker, the routes more treacherous. She moved slowly, carefully, watching each step. The forest around her was absolutely silent. The storm had driven away all the normal nighttime sounds, leaving nothing but the drip of water from leaves and her own footsteps. At 11:47 p.m., Lauren noticed the first strange blaze. The Appalachian Trail was marked with white blazes, painted rectangles on trees that showed hikers they were on the correct path. Lauren's dying headlamp caught one of these blazes ahead, but something about it was wrong. The paint seemed to glow faintly with a luminescence she'd never seen on a standard trail marker. She approached slowly and examined it. Definitely a white blaze, the right size and shape, but it was glowing, very faintly, with a pale light that seemed to come from within the paint itself. Lauren touched it. The paint was warm, not hot, but noticeably warmer than the surrounding bark, as if something was generating heat behind it. She continued walking, increasingly uneasy. The next blaze she encountered had the same strange glow. And the next. Lauren checked her trail guide. She should be on a straight section, heading north toward the shelter. But the blazes seemed to be leading her slightly east onto what felt like a different path. At exactly midnight, Lauren checked her watch to confirm. The trail changed. It didn't happen gradually. One moment, Lauren was walking on the familiar rocky path she'd been following for hours. The next moment, she was on a different trail entirely. Smoother, wider, with the underbrush pulled back on both sides, creating clear passage. And the blazes were brighter now, glowing with unmistakable luminescence. Lauren stopped, her heart pounding. This wasn't right. Trails didn't just change. She must have taken a wrong turn, missed a junction, gotten off the AT without realizing it. She pulled out her phone to check her GPS. No signal, that was normal in these mountains, but her downloaded trail map should still work. She opened the app and stared in confusion at the screen. According to the GPS, she was standing in the middle of unmarked forest, not on the Appalachian Trail, not on any trail. The app showed her position as a blank space between mapped paths. That was impossible. She was clearly on a trail. She could see the path, see the blazes. Her GPS must be malfunctioning. Lauren looked ahead. The glowing blazes continued into the darkness, marking a clear path. And in the distance, maybe half a mile away, she could see lights. Probably the shelter, she thought. She'd somehow gotten off the main trail but found a side path that led to the same destination. She continued walking. The new trail descended into a narrow valley Lauren didn't remember from her maps. The descent was steep, and Lauren had to use her trekking poles for balance. The glowing blazes led her down, 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 until the mountain ridges rose on both sides and she was walking through what felt like a tunnel of trees. The lights she'd seen earlier were closer now. Not the shelter. There were too many of them spread out across the valley floor. Campfires, Lauren realized. Lots of campfires. Relief flooded through her. Other hikers. She'd found a camping area, probably an unofficial site that wasn't on the maps. She'd be safe, have company, maybe even dry out her gear by someone's fire. As Lauren entered the valley proper, she started to see the camps more clearly. Tents scattered through the trees, campfires burning. But something was odd. The camps looked old. The tents weren't modern ultralight models, but heavy canvas styles from decades ago. And the gear scattered around the fires was antique, old-style backpacks, vintage camping equipment. Lauren approached the nearest campfire. A man sat beside it, staring into the flames. He was maybe 60 years old, with a long gray beard and clothing that looked like it hadn't been washed in months. His backpack, propped against a tree, had a wooden frame, the kind that hadn't been used since the 1970s. "Excuse me?" Lauren said. "I got a bit turned around. Is this near the Appalachian Trail shelter?" The man looked up at her, and Lauren's breath caught. His eyes were hollow, haunted. "What year is it?" he asked. "What?" "What year? Outside, in the real world, what year is it?" "It's 2024, Lauren said slowly. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The man laughed, a sound with no humor in it. 2024. I've been here since 1973. 51 years. 51 years in this valley. Still October 17th. Still midnight. Always midnight. Lauren backed away. The man was clearly not well, perhaps suffering from dementia or a psychological break. "I think you need medical attention. I can call for help once I get back to the main trail." "You're not getting back to the main trail," the man said. "None of us are. This is Nowhere Valley. The Midnight Trail led you here just like it led all of us, and here we stay until, well, no one's figured out the until yet." Other figures were emerging from their camps now, drawn by the sound of voices. Lauren saw dozens of them, men and women of various ages, all with that same haunted look, all dressed in hiking gear from different eras. She saw clothes from the 1960s, the 80s, the 90s. The most recent styles she recognized were maybe 2015. "I don't understand," Lauren said, her voice shaking. "What is this place?" A woman approached, younger than the first man, maybe 40, wearing gear from the early 2000s. "The Midnight Trail appears on certain nights, dark moon nights usually. It offers a shortcut, easier terrain, and if you're tired enough, desperate enough, you take it. Then you end up here." "But this valley doesn't exist," Lauren protested. "I have maps. There's no valley in this area that—" "It exists outside the normal geography, or inside it. We're not sure which. The trail creates a fold, a pocket dimension maybe, where time doesn't move forward. It's always midnight here, always October 17th. We've been walking these same few miles for years, decades in some cases, trying to find the exit." "The exit must be the way I came in," Lauren said. "I'll just backtrack." "The entrance changes," the first man said. "Every time someone new arrives, the trail rearranges itself. We've tried mapping it, but nothing stays consistent. Paths that led somewhere yesterday lead nowhere today. Blazes appear and disappear. The whole valley shifts like a maze that redesigns itself." Lauren looked around wildly. The valley was maybe 2 miles across, forested, with steep ridges on all sides. "There has to be a way out. People don't just disappear. Search and rescue would have found you." "SAR doesn't come here," the woman said gently, "because in the real world, we're probably not here. We're lost in the normal forest, or fell off a cliff, or something mundane. Our bodies are out there somewhere, but our consciousness, our awareness, is trapped here, in this pocket, this nowhere place." "That's insane," Lauren said, but even as she spoke, she noticed something that made her stomach drop. Her watch still read 12:03 a.m., the same time it had read when she entered the valley. She stared at it, watching the second hand tick, but the minute hand wasn't moving. Time had stopped. "No," Lauren whispered. "No, this isn't happening." "I'm sorry," the woman said. "I know it's hard to accept. We all went through the denial phase. Some of us are still in it." She gestured at a few figures sitting alone at distant camps, rocking back and forth, muttering to themselves. "How many people are trapped here?" Lauren asked. 43 that we know of. Could be more. The valley is big enough that you could avoid the main camps if you wanted. Some people prefer being alone with their despair. Lauren's mind raced. She was a scientist by training, biology degree before she dropped out to pursue long-distance hiking. There had to be a logical explanation. Time couldn't just stop. Pocket dimensions didn't exist outside of science fiction. But her watch was frozen, and when she looked at her phone, it showed the same time, 12:03 a.m. The date, October 17th, exactly what it had shown when she entered the valley. "There's got to be a pattern, a way out that depends on finding the right path, or waiting for the right conditions, or—" "We've tried everything," the first man said. His voice was defeated, worn down by 51 years of trying and failing. "Every possible combination of paths. We've tried leaving at different times, though time doesn't pass here, so that's futile. We've tried going over the ridges, though they always circle back to the valley. We've tried destroying the blazes, following streams, using compasses. Nothing works." "Some people have given up," the woman added, "accepted that this is their eternity now. They've made camps, established routines, found ways to pass the time. Others are still searching, still walking, convinced they'll find the exit if they just try hard enough. Been walking for decades, some of them, never stopping, never resting. Lauren looked into the forest and could see them, figures with headlamps or flashlights moving through the trees, endlessly walking the same trails, searching for an exit that never appeared. "There's one other thing," the woman said quietly, "something we've noticed over the years. Sometimes the valley takes people." "Takes them where?" "We don't know. They're walking one moment, and the next, they're just gone, vanished. It happened to a man named Thomas about 5 years ago, 5 years our time, which could be 5 minutes or 50 decades in the real world. He was walking a trail he'd walked 1,000 times before, and he just disappeared mid-step. We heard him scream once, very faintly, like he was suddenly very far away. Then, nothing." "How often does this happen?" "Irregularly. Sometimes we'll go years without losing anyone. Sometimes we'll lose 3 people in what feels like a week. We think it's the valley feeding, taking people deeper into whatever this place really is."
Lauren refused to accept this. She was trapped, yes, but there had to be a scientific explanation, and there had to be a way out. She just needed to observe, collect data, find the pattern. She spent what felt like hours walking the trails of Nowhere Valley, mapping them meticulously in a notebook. She talked to other trapped hikers, collecting their stories, their observations, looking for commonalities. The oldest hiker, a man named Robert who'd been trapped since 1967, told her that the valley seemed to respond to desperation. "The more desperately you want to leave, the more the trails twist," Robert explained. "It's like the valley feeds on hope and fear. When someone arrives fresh, still fighting, the trails are most chaotic. After you've been here long enough to accept it, things stabilize somewhat." "So the answer is to give up?" Lauren asked. "The answer is there is no answer. This place isn't logical. It doesn't follow rules we can understand. It's a trap, and we're caught, and that's all there is." But Lauren refused to accept that. She continued walking, continued mapping, looking for the pattern. And slowly, over what her watch insisted was still just minutes, but felt like hours, she began to notice something. The trails weren't completely random. There was a structure to them, a subtle design. The blazes, when mapped out, formed patterns, symbols almost. And those symbols repeated with variations, like a language she didn't quite understand. And the valley itself was shaped wrong. The ridges that surrounded it didn't obey normal topography. From certain angles, they seemed to fold in on themselves, creating impossible geometries that made Lauren's head hurt to look at directly. Nowhere Valley wasn't a place, it was a construct, a trap designed with deliberate intelligence by something that understood human psychology, that knew how to create hope and then dash it, that could manipulate space and time in ways that kept its victims perpetually disoriented. Lauren found the valley's heart at what felt like hour 12 of her walking, though her watch still insisted it was 12:03 a.m. In the center of the valley, hidden in a grove of ancient hemlocks, was a stone structure. Not a natural formation, but deliberately built, a circle of standing stones surrounding a flat altar. The stones were carved with symbols that matched the patterns formed by the glowing trailblazes. This was the source, the anchor, the thing that held Nowhere Valley outside of normal time and space. Other hikers had found this place. Lauren could see evidence of their visits, scratched messages in the dirt. Tried destroying the stones, didn't work. No amount of force affects them. They're indestructible. Lauren approached the altar carefully. It was made of a single piece of black stone, smooth and cold to the touch. And carved into its surface was writing, not in English, but in something older, Cherokee maybe, or something that predated even that. As Lauren touched the stone, she felt a vibration, not the rumbling of an earthquake, but something more subtle, a frequency, a pattern pulsing up through the stone into her hand. And suddenly, she understood.
The valley wasn't holding them, they were holding the valley. Every person trapped here was powering it, their frustrated attempts to escape generating the energy that kept the pocket dimension stable. The more they struggled, the more they walked, the more they hoped and despaired, the stronger the valley became. It was a perfect trap, a self-sustaining prison powered by its own inmates. "You figured it out," a voice said behind her. Lauren turned to see a woman she hadn't met before. Older, maybe 70, wearing hiking clothes from the 1980s. But unlike the other trapped hikers, this woman didn't look defeated. She looked knowing. "You're the first person in decades to actually understand what this place is," the woman continued. "Most people just accept their imprisonment, or they break under the strain. But you saw the pattern. Clever." "Who are you?" Lauren asked. "I'm the one who built this place. Or rather, I'm what's left of her. My name was Catherine Webb. I was a hiker like you once. Back in 1982, I got lost in these mountains. Should have died. Hypothermia, dehydration, exposure. But I found something instead. An old ritual site, older than the Cherokee, older than the mountains themselves. And I learned something. That if you're desperate enough, if you're angry enough at the universe for being unfair, you can trap the thing that's trying to kill you, trap time itself." Lauren's blood ran cold. "You created Nowhere Valley? You trapped all these people?" "I created a place where I wouldn't die, a pocket where time didn't move forward, where I could exist forever without aging, without succumbing to the elements. The others, they were unintended. Hikers who stumbled onto my midnight trail, who got caught in the temporal fold I'd created. I didn't mean to trap them, but I didn't try to free them either." "You're a monster," Lauren breathed. "I'm a survivor," Catherine corrected, "and you could be too. You understand how the valley works now. You could help me strengthen it instead of fighting it. Together, we could build a whole world here, outside of time, safe from death and decay, and all the terrible things that happen in the real world." "That's insane." "Is it?" Catherine stepped closer. "In the real world, you'd be hiking for another month to finish your thru-hike. Then what? Back to a regular job? Back to the grind? Back to growing old and dying like everyone else? Here, you stay exactly as you are, forever young, forever at your peak. Time can't touch you." Lauren looked around at the other trapped hikers. "Forever young," Catherine had said, but they looked worn down, exhausted, defeated by false hope and endless walking. "That's not life. That's hell. An endless moment with no future, no change, no possibility of anything different. You haven't beaten death. You've just frozen yourself in the moment before it." Catherine's expression hardened. "Then find your own way out if you're so clever. But you won't, because the valley is designed perfectly. Every possible exit leads back to the center. Every path is a loop. The only way to leave is to become powerful enough to reshape the valley itself, and the only way to do that is to embrace what this place is, to stop fighting and start building." "There's always a way out," Lauren said. "Every trap has a weakness." "Then by all means, find it. You have all the time in the world." Literally. Catherine walked away, disappearing into the forest. Lauren stood at the altar, her mind racing. There had to be a way. Had to be. She thought about what Catherine had said. The valley was powered by the trapped hikers' consciousness, their constant movement, their desperate attempts to escape. What if the answer was the opposite? What if, instead of moving, everyone stopped? Lauren spent the next period, she'd stopped thinking of it as hours since time had no meaning here, convincing the other trapped hikers to try an experiment. It wasn't easy. Many were too broken to hope anymore. Others thought she was crazy. But eventually, Lauren gathered 37 of the 43 trapped souls at the stone circle. "At the same time, we all stop," Lauren explained.
Stop walking, stop trying to escape, stop feeding the valley with our desperation. If the valley needs our consciousness to maintain itself, maybe withdrawing that energy will destabilize it, create a crack we can slip through. "We've tried staying still before," Robert said. "Camping in one spot for what feels like weeks doesn't change anything." "But we've never all done it at once, never coordinated a complete withdrawal of energy. It's worth trying." They agreed. Lauren counted down, and at her signal, all 37 hikers stopped moving, stopped walking, stopped searching, stopped hoping. They sat or stood perfectly still, clearing their minds, withdrawing their consciousness from the valley as much as possible. At first, nothing happened. Then Lauren felt it, a trembling in the air, a vibration that suggested strain. The glowing blazes flickered. The impossible geometry of the ridges seemed to waver. The valley was destabilizing. "Keep it up!" Lauren shouted. "It's working!" But then Catherine appeared at the edge of the circle, her face twisted with rage. "No! You'll destroy everything! You'll collapse the fold and kill us all!" "Good! Better to die trying to escape than exist forever in this trap!" Catherine raised her arms, and the valley responded. The ground heaved, the trees bent inward, and from the altar came a sound like reality tearing. The hikers held firm, maintaining their stillness, their withdrawal. The valley shrieked, an actual sound, like wind through a massive pipe, and Lauren felt something fundamental give way. Reality cracked. For just a moment, Lauren saw through the illusion, saw what Nowhere Valley really was. Not a place, but a moment, endlessly repeating. A single second of midnight on October 17th stretched and folded and wrapped around itself like origami, creating the illusion of space and time, while actually being neither. And in that crack, Lauren saw the way out. "Run!" she screamed. "Everyone run toward the crack! Now!" The hikers bolted, running toward the place where reality was tearing. It looked like nothing, just a shimmer in the air, like heat haze, but Lauren knew it was the exit, the only exit they'd ever have. Behind them, Catherine screamed. The valley fought back, the paths twisting, the ground heaving, trying to stop the escape. But momentum was on the hikers' side. They crashed through the crack, one after another, tumbling through reality itself. Lauren was the last one through. As she crossed the threshold, she looked back and saw Catherine standing in the collapsing valley, her face a mixture of rage and terror. The woman reached toward Lauren, but the crack was already sealing. And then, Lauren was falling through darkness, through time, through a void that lasted forever, and no time at all. She hit the ground hard and opened her eyes to daylight, real daylight, dawn breaking over the Appalachian Mountains. She was lying on the trail, the real trail, marked with white blazes, about half a mile from where she'd been when midnight struck. Around her, other hikers were picking themselves up, looking around in confusion and wonder. They'd escaped. All 37 of them had made it out. But when Lauren checked her phone, her heart sank. The date read October 31st. 2 weeks had passed in the real world. For Lauren, it had felt like maybe 18 hours in the valley, but outside, time had moved forward while they were trapped. And worse, when the escaped hikers tried to reintegrate with their lives, they discovered the cost of their escape. Time had moved on without them. For Lauren, it was just 2 weeks, inconvenient but manageable. For Robert, who'd been trapped since 1967, 57 years had passed. His family was dead or elderly. The world he'd known was completely gone. Most of the escaped hikers couldn't handle it. The temporal displacement, the loss, the knowledge that decades had passed while they walked in eternal midnight. Within 6 months, 4 had died, officially from suicide or accidents, but Lauren suspected they'd simply given up. Others disappeared, possibly trying to find ways back to the valley, back to the frozen moment where at least everything stayed consistent. Lauren finished her thru-hike, reaching Mount Katahdin in early November. But the achievement felt hollow. She couldn't forget Nowhere Valley, couldn't forget the hikers who were still trapped there, the 6 who hadn't made it to the crack in time before it sealed, including Catherine Webb, architect of her own eternal prison. Sometimes on dark moon nights in October, Lauren dreams of the midnight trail, dreams of glowing blazes leading her into that valley where time stands still. And part of her, a part she's ashamed to admit exists, misses it, misses the simplicity of endless walking with no destination, misses being frozen in a single moment where nothing could change or hurt or disappoint. The midnight trail still appears. Every dark moon in October, somewhere along the Appalachian Trail, a new path opens, marked with glowing blazes, promising easier terrain, offering rest to tired hikers. And somewhere, in a pocket outside of time, Catherine Webb walks alone through a valley that's collapsing slowly without the consciousness of other hikers to sustain it. She's trapped forever in the prison she created, in a midnight that will never end. Lauren wonders sometimes if Catherine is still trying to lure new hikers into the valley, still broadcasting her midnight trail, desperately hoping to capture new victims to stabilize her collapsing pocket dimension. Or if she's finally accepted her fate and stopped fighting. Either way, the midnight trail still appears, and hikers still take it. And Nowhere Valley is still waiting. Always at midnight. Always on October 17th, always hungry for more lost souls to power its impossible existence.
Lauren Hayes completed her Appalachian Trail thru-hike and now works as a trail guide, leading group expeditions through various long-distance paths. She never hikes alone anymore, never hikes after dark, and she's made it her mission to warn other hikers about the midnight trail, about the dangers of walking after dark, about trails that appear too perfect, too easy, too conveniently timed. Most people think she's just being overly cautious, but a few listen. A few have told her they saw glowing blazes at midnight, felt the pull toward an unmarked trail, and chose to wait for dawn instead. Those people might have saved their own lives without knowing it. The Appalachian Trail Conservancy has no official record of Nowhere Valley. They can't. It doesn't exist on any map, doesn't occupy any physical space that can be measured. But the organization's incident reports show a pattern. Hikers who go missing on dark moon nights in October, always in Virginia, always in remote sections where help is far away. 43 people have been reported missing under these conditions over the past 60 years. That number never changes. 43. The same number that Lauren found trapped in Nowhere Valley, which suggests that when one escapes, another takes their place. The valley needs exactly 43 consciousnesses to maintain stability. It's hungry for exactly that number, no more, no less. If you hike the Appalachian Trail, you'll probably be fine. Thousands complete it every year without incident. But if you find yourself hiking after midnight, if you see trailblazes that glow with their own light, if a path appears that promises easier going, don't take it. Wait for dawn. Wait for the real trail to be visible. Because some shortcuts don't save time. Some paths lead to a moment you can never escape. And some valleys exist outside of everything you understand about reality. The midnight trail is waiting. Nowhere Valley is hungry. And midnight lasts forever. If this story has you planning to never hike after dark again, hit that subscribe button for more terrifying tales from the trails. And remember, when experienced hikers tell you not to walk at night, they're not being overcautious. They're sharing survival knowledge passed down through generations of people who learned the hard way. The trail changes after midnight. Paths appear that shouldn't exist, and if you take those paths, you might find yourself in a place where morning never comes, where you walk forever in darkness, where time stands still and you're trapped in an endless moment of midnight. Hike safe, hike smart, and when the sun sets,
Make camp. Don't keep walking, because you never know when the midnight trail might appear, glowing and inviting, promising a shortcut that leads nowhere you want to go. The valley is waiting. Don't give it a reason to notice you.